Good morning, everybody. Good morning. I'd like to welcome you to the fourth and last installment of Gardening Limitations. We have had another good crowd today, and evidently everybody brought their popcorn appetite with them. That's the sixth popping we've got going right now. We got today we'll conclude with a section on plants. And I think everybody will find most interesting. And make sure that you ask questions as we go through there today to our presenters. And as always, we appreciate you being here. With that, John, take it away.
Well, good morning, good morning. Good morning. So we have people who are new with us today. First time you've been to a presentation. Well, if you missed any of the previous ones, I do have a couple of packets from part 2 and part 3. So if you want to get those later, you're welcome to do that. I do have a few announcements quick I want to make. Let's see, reminder that starting Friday at 1 o'clock, the Lockerly Arboretum in Milledgeville has its annual plant sale. You'll get an opportunity to see some great plants and some very reasonable prices. So please don't miss that. It's Friday and Saturday. Saturday it's from
9 to 1.
I should know that, but I don't.
Friday afternoon.
Friday afternoons from 1 till 6. All right. There's a flyer up at front in Athens. The Piedmont group is having a garden tour. That's the weekend of Easter. Not this Saturday, it's Saturday before. It tells about it if you're interested in it. The tickets can be available that day or ahead of time at a couple of locations, but they're going to visit some really awesome gardens and unplanted conditions.
Does it say where to go? Who do you meet?
I think you go, don't you just go to any
Yeah, there's 5 gardens and it's self-guided, so you can go to any garden, you can start wherever you want. But how do you get information on where to start and all? Well, when you get the ticket, there's a map. There's a driving map and directions from one to the other. Now, if you decide to go from 2 to 5 to 3, then you're on your own. But if you go 1 to 5, you're in good shape.
Tickets online.
You can do it online, and there's also, you can get them at Thomas Orchard Specialty Ornamentals. There's a bunch of places where you can actually get the tickets.
For those that are in the new Master Gardener class, the older guys can remember that next Tuesday, provided that they pass their test, they're going to graduate. So we have 20-something new folks, and they have a little different tag because they don't get their name tag this year until they complete their 50 hours. So you'll see them. Some of them are volunteering at Lockerly this weekend. So when you know, and I hear they're going to take tests a little different this time. Heard about that yet? On April the 19th, also this same Saturday, the 3rd, Habitat for Humanity House is the landscaping needs to be done. The way these things work, you know, there's all kinds of people who work on these projects, and when we get to the landscaping part, Debbie Johnson is the project coordinator for the Master Gardeners, and David and I guess David and Debbie have been wintering over a large amount of plants that were donated by McCorville last September. So if you're available to help with that, the message has gone out to you, but just keep that in mind that that's always a cool project to turn over a completed house to a family that needs it.
It's fun to work with the homeowners.
They do, and they work hard. They work hard on every aspect of the project in order to, you know, they have to put in some sweat hours. Let's see, lastly, if you are interested, yes ma'am. Yes ma'am.
I have a general announcement that I've been asked to deliver from Georgia College. The students are bringing Walter Reeves to campus next week, and they very much want to invite all of you to attend his presentations. And I think most of you are familiar with Walter Reeves. He's a former extension agent and a well-known gardener in this state beside radio and television programs. But he'll be on campus in the A&S Arts and Sciences Auditorium, making a presentation at 7. And when they get an email together for me, I'll send it to you so you can forward it out to everybody. But there'll be a reception beforehand as well, starting around 6.
What day?
Oh, I'm sorry, next Thursday, April 17th.
Yeah.
So it's a great opportunity, and he'll be talking talking about gardening in small spaces.
Well, that's a follow-up later.
We did.
That's right. Guys, I'm gonna tell you, there's been a lot of follow-up to this program around the state. There's gonna be a whole other section of it in Macon here pretty soon.
Okay, but I'll send you information so we get the word out there.
And those that do receive my email, if you're interested in going on a tour at Vince Dooley's house, I just need to get a head count, you know, so just let me know yay or nay if something happens, if you don't get to go, that's okay. But I need a head count for the restaurant and for the place. All right, everybody, so we want to take an opportunity to welcome you. This is the part 4 and the last part of our presentation. I've had, I don't know how many people say, I guess you're going to be glad that it's over. I've really had a pretty good time. I will say, you know, it has been a little bit stressful, and my husband is really thrilled that the basement is empty. So, you know, that being said, he now has to clean up his junk. So he made that comment the other day. As we've talked about in all 4 of these before, we want to give special thanks to our sponsors. I'm going to tell you, you'll see their name again today. I can't tell enough about what Hardware and Gray has done for us, not only with donations and money and food area, but they've got something in every portion of this presentation. We also received funding through Farm Bureau that took care of some popcorn, water, and some stuff like that initially when we started up. The biggest thing I have to do is thank my friends who have been here and were here this morning at 9 o'clock setting everything up because they know that they don't want me to have to stress over it at the last minute. So it's a wonderful group of folks, and thank you so much for all your help. All right, guys, so we all know that as we get, I don't care if it's older or whatever, life always brings us a bunch of different challenges. In this presentation, what we wanted to do was cover certain types of challenges. Space limitation challenges, physical limitations, and time limitations. That's what this program's been about since the beginning. And it really has kind of made me laugh. The more I've been reading articles and doing things, I'm seeing this topic being brought up more and more often. And come on in, come on in. That's all right. Hey, Carol, how are you? Get you a, here, get you a tissue. Get you a paper. Alright, I'm supposed to talk. Alright, and all of these sometimes have the challenge your ability to continue your gardening. So what we want to do is to make some ways throughout this whole program that we made you continue your gardening in a smarter way. And I have heard from many of you over the last, and some of the products that you went ahead and bought, if you didn't take one home for free, that you found that they've been very useful, and that's what it's all about. Same slides you've seen the previous ones. We would not be having the same presentation. I've been asked about 5 times to give this presentation over again. And I'm just telling you guys, I can't do it the same way. And although I know next time, most of y'all are going to show up because there's not going to be something free. And it's going to be a lot boring just to stand up here and talk. But in true reality, if it hadn't been for these people that sent us stuff, which when I finished figuring out this program for the cost of it, we've got a retail value of a little under $8,000, which is donated stuff. So but none of that would have been possible if these people hadn't been willing to stick their faith in us putting on a presentation for somebody that they don't even know, most of which lives in other parts of the country, and send stuff on good faith email that went out. So why does everybody have a blue ticket? Everybody come in and have a blue ticket. If you do not have a blue ticket, be sure you get one before the end of this presentation. Because that was my promise to them, is that everything that we brought and demonstrated was going to be given away. Now, I'm going to say this. Today's a little bit different. You know, everybody can learn how to use a tool or a cart or a wagon. Today, oh my goodness. How are you? Somebody just asked about you this morning. What we're doing today is we're going to have a bunch of serious plants. Now, if you are not really a big gardener and you're not really a plant person, please don't take one of these home and let it sit in your yard and die. Because the ones of us who really are plant people know The quality of the material that's here, this is not your normal material you're gonna buy at Home Depot. These are special plants. So, you know, kind of like the Jeff Foxworthy thing, you know, if you don't carry a tarp in your car all the time in case you find a cool plant, you're really not a plant nerd. So, you need to remember that and pass up that opportunity to take home something if you're not really cool. Because I just have heartbreak if you sit in that black pot and die, okay? Same thing that, you know, we've seen before. I'm not receiving anything from this. Keith's not receiving anything from this. This is just not an endorsement of any of the products. Mopping back there. So, all right, so what have we learned over the last 3 months of our journey? Actually, one I've had to postpone a while. We learned that we can have specialty design tools that really help the situation. If you got the right tool, you can make your job a whole lot easier. If you can do your automating your irrigation, or you can use different methods of fertilizing, you will make your job easier, which is what we want to do. Last month we had lots of people go home with some prizes, although Lynn looks like she's having a hard time holding up that bucket. And that's what it's all about. Now today we're going to cover plantings and container gardening, and I actually should have said containers for gardening. Or this is not about how to arrange things in a container. Okay, this is about how to use containers in limited spaces. Okay? That's what this is all about. And planting in limited spaces. So let me ask you, do you, like me, often feel overwhelmed by the world of plants? I did not know until really after I finished Master Gardener class, I started some other things, that there were so many plants. My shade looked horrible because I didn't know there were things that would live in the shade, you know, and stuff like that that I've learned as I came along. But I did know whenever I started this program and started thinking about this program back in June of last year, that I wanted to present some talk about plant material into this gardening program. And that plant material would relate to the topic at hand, which is, in our instance, is going to be limited space. Not everybody lives on, you know, 5 or 6 acres of property. But I also knew that it didn't matter how much research that I did for this, that I would totally not be competent to present this topic to you. I'm a tool person. I can build anything. But plants, even after 4 years, which January was 4 years that I've been in the program, I still struggle with knowing the names of plants and when this is going to live and how big this is going to get and all that stuff. So I was able to coerce, beg, do whatever, and get one of our lifetime master gardeners to assist with this portion of the program. The pictures that you see up here are a very small snippet of her garden, which is an absolute awesome place to visit. It has a very diverse group of plants, and the one thing that I've learned from it is that it is a garden for all 4 seasons, which I have in the past not always had. You know, wintertime you just stay inside. That is not true. And if you learn from the plant, the right kind of plant material can give you the opportunity to have a year-round garden with year-round interest. Now, I believe that her knowledge of plants is really only exceeded by her willingness to exchange that knowledge with people who are passionate about plants like her. So, you're lucky today to have Ms. Barbie Cole.
Passing those out, and that's great. Well, thank you for the introduction. If you could see my garden now, it really doesn't look like those pictures. It's been a long winter, but this is going to be fun today. Obviously, we've got some cool plants to talk about. First of all, I want to start out by let's talk about what you're all going to have in your hands, so we all know how to follow along. Sean and I did start working on this program. We talked about it in December, and I promised her that, you know, when we got through the holidays, we would get more tuned into it. So we started making a list of plants that fit the topic, which is plants for small spaces. Small meaning both containers, patios, courtyards, or in a small area in your larger garden. So the idea was stuff that, you know, is going to kind of stay within its boundaries and behave. So I made a list of some plants that I liked, and then Sean and I started talking about where would we get material from, and we knew 2 growers that I think several people here would be familiar with. One is Specialty Ornamentals, Flo Chafin in Watkinsville. And for those of you that went on our little field trip last year to Garden Design Nursery, to Dave Fried's Japanese Maple Nursery in Danielsville, we talked about them because we knew that they both grew and inventoried material that fit this bill. Not every Japanese maple gets to be 30 feet high and 30 feet wide. Some of them stay, they're little teeny mounds. And the same thing with conifers, a lot that Flo grows. So we solicited Flo and Dave and said, we're doing this great program. You're going to get a lot of really great publicity, but you got to give us some plants. And so they made up their list, and so some of the plants we're going to talk about are recommendations that Flo made and donated, some are Dave's, and the rest we went around and we begged for. And I will also tell you that we have a list that was very complete as of Monday. As of 9 o'clock last night, we were feverishly, I should say, Sean was feverishly changing slides because what we thought we were going to get wasn't exactly what we ended up with. So there are going to be a few changes, and I will try to highlight those as we go through this. So if you have a pen, you might have to cross some things out and write other little notes. So basically what we're going to do is we've got some plants and we divided them into non-technical categories. Small trees, grasses, woody ornamentals. That would be something that is pretty but loses its leaves. Conifers. So we've got things broken into those categories, and that's how it is in this booklet as well. So what we're going to do is for everything that's in here, we're going to talk about it, and if we got one, we're going to show it and talk about it a little bit. If you've grown this, if you've had good luck, if you've had bad luck, if you have a question, raise your hand, jump in, whatever. Because the whole idea is that I hope when you walk out of here, you're going, you know what, I learned about 3 plants today that I want to add to my garden. So that would be a good thing, and hopefully, if you're one of the lucky ones, these plants actually will go home. So with that in mind, I want to mention to you that for all the nurseries and garden centers that donated material, in your folders, you will have discount coupons. For instance, if you fall in love with some of these Japanese maples and you want to make a trip to Garden Design Nursery, Dave's offering 20% off through the middle of May. Here's his coupon and his availability list. T-Bones in Milledgeville donated material, 15% off. Specialty Ornamentals in Watkinsville, 20% off. Ace of Gray, take $10 off a purchase of $50 or more. So all the vendors not only donated material, but they're offering you discounts, and they're over a variety of periods. So you just need to look at this. Sometimes you have to take a coupon with you, but read the fine print. So, okay, we're going to get going. Sean and I were trying to figure out how to do this. I really like move plants because these 3-gallon plants are heavy. So I think what I'm going to do is actually kind of start over here. Sometimes we actually have the plant, sometimes we don't have the plant, so we're just on. So the first group of plants we're going to talk about are conifers. And technically a conifer is a cone-bearing plant. Most of the time they're evergreen, but there are some that are actually deciduous and they lose their leaves. We're not going to get any more technical than that. So we're going to start with this little guy, and this is a little Chamaecyparis. You're going to find that primarily in this world of conifers, we're going to talk about false cypress, which are Chamaecyparis, and we're also going to talk about cryptomerias. And there may be some of you going, cryptomerias, those are those giant things that I have planted in my yard that screen me from, you know, the trailer park next door or something. What you'll find is in these categories, there are actually some little itty-bitty guys, and they stay little itty-bitty. So those are the ones we're going to talk about today. So little Nana gracilis, this is just a cute little one. I hope everybody's had a chance to kind of come up here and look around. But this guy has got really tight little twirled fans of foliage. He doesn't get very big, as you can see, you know, 4 to 5 feet high, and that's after a long time. I would tell you that a really long time. So he's great in a container. When we say great in a container, let me qualify that. That is not an 8-inch clay pot, okay? I mean, you know, we can't put plants in things that are going to be little Dutch ovens in a Georgia summer. So recognize the fact that if you are going to put something in a container and you want it to be there for 3 to 5 years, the container needs to be big enough that the roots don't go out to the edge and burn every time it gets to be 90 degrees. So buy bigger containers. You know, for anybody that has ever come to my garden, a lot of times, you know, you go through the summer and you go, I am never using this pot again. It's way too small. I have to water something 4 times a day. Off they go. And you go up another 6 inches in size somehow. So think big when you're thinking about containers. And also based on some of the things that we learned last time in your presentation about irrigation, think about running little drip lines to those containers. It's a huge time saver. Huge time saver, especially in the summer when you have better things to do than stand outside with a hose when it's 90 degrees. Okay, so this was my first little guy. The next guy we're going to talk about spirit, but this is also a false cypress, a Hinoki cypress. This guy stays really little also, but he's got great color. He's more of a lime green. The new growth on it is creamy color, so it always looks variegated. It stays small. I would tell you the 2 places that you might find this if you're interested in it would be Specialty Ornamentals or Piccadilly Farm. If anybody's familiar with those 2 places, that's where you might be able to find it. But again, it's a great little plant. I also want to talk just for a second about that 4th bullet down. Drought tolerant once established. Let's talk about that for a minute. Getting a plant established does not mean dig the hole, plunk it in there, water it in, and walk away. You know, on a lot of plants, that getting established can be an entire year. If you're putting in a really big tree, you know, you've got to make sure that it's getting good moisture while those roots are getting into the surrounding soil. So even an agave, you can't just, you know, dig a hole and stick it in and walk away and come back 4 months later and hope it's alive. Everything needs some time to get established. So, and it will depend on the plant, but let the plant tell you that. You know, babysit it for a while. When we've got plentiful rain, don't worry about it. But when it's hot and dry and windy, you need to go check the foliage. Stick your finger in the soil, and if it's dry, chances are the roots are pretty dry and it probably needs a drink. So you're going to see that comment over and over again because a lot of these plants, once they're in the landscape, will be drought tolerant. In a container, there's very little that's drought tolerant. And agaves, you know, hellebores you don't have to water every day, but you know, there's just, in a container, you know, the air gets through there and you gotta water that stuff. So just be a little tender when it comes to that aspect. Okay, so we got spirited, that's good. The next one we're gonna talk about this plant. I wish we could have gotten one. I would also look for this maybe at Piccadilly Farm in Watkinsville. Devon Cream is this fabulous little blue conifer, silvery blue-gray, soft to the touch, like a little cute poodle that's a baby, that's not yapping. It stays small. You know, the largest I've ever seen has maybe only been this big, and that's after having been in a garden for many, many years. But the blue on it is beautiful. In the winter, it's a gorgeous color. So I'm a big fan for blue in the garden because I think blue and silver foliage is hard to find. So when I can find it in an evergreen and it'll stay small and you don't have to prune it, you know, you don't have to do anything to it. Just, you know, make sure he's happy. It's a pretty good plant in my estimation. Okay, the next, I think we have one here. I hope the people in the back can see it. When we take a break, which is going to be at the conclusion of this, come up and look at this guy. He is so neat. It's called Black Dragon because it will do well in the shade. It has very, very dark foliage. It has a very irregular kind of a architectural look to it. It's a great specimen plant in a container or in a bed as a focal point. It would never be a screening plant because it's never going to be really dense and compact up and down. It's always going to have some irregularity to it. But again, it's a cryptomeria. You can see how tight all this is. It will tend to get a bronze cast to it in the wintertime. So first of all, don't be concerned that it's dead. You know, unless you didn't water it or whatever. Most of the time it's just a coloration change and it'll start turning back in the spring, which is what this one's doing right now. But that's a cool plant. Great for a big planter that you can use as a 12-month specimen and then underplant it with your seasonal things, whether it's violas or whether it's million bells or blue days or whatever you want to put underneath it. But it's a great, great plant. Fun plant to have. Anna is another little cryptomeria. This guy is so cute. He stays very little as well. He's going to be maybe twice as big this way, maybe a little taller. But he's always going to, his new growth is always this really bright lime green that's shiny. It looks like it's plastic. I mean, if you come up to it, you'd think, that's a fake plant, but it's not. And he's just as cute as a button. He'll also do well in shade. And that's the beauty of most of these cryptomerias is most of the time they'll do, if you've got shade, dry shade, you can usually get away with planting these. You're going to, again, get them established, but once they're established, they're good to go. So he's a little sweetie. Globosa Nana is this one behind it. I think of this as one of the ultimate meatball plants because it just wants to grow round. You don't, yes, you might end up with a little stray now and then, but for the most part, that's just its natural growth tendency. These don't get very big, maybe waist high and wide, 3.5, 4 feet high, very well behaved. Just, you can just shake him and pet him, He doesn't bark, doesn't bite. He's a good one. So anyway, great plant. Again, sometimes you're looking for a round shape without actually having to shape it. Sometimes you go, oh, I want vase shape. Sometimes I want pyramid. Sometimes you want low and wide. Sometimes you want round. We've got several plants here that will fit that round category, and he is definitely one of them. One is, all right, where are we? Elegance now. We're going to, Globosa now. That would be, where did you go? Oh, that was Globosa now. Okay, the next one is, this guy. Okay. Here we go. Yeah, that's why he just couldn't fit on the table. We were afraid he would break the table. All right. We could all do the pronunciation of this, and if there's 60 people in the room, I guarantee you we would say it 60 different ways. So we're just going to bypass that, and I'm going to assume that you all have your own way of saying this name. So there you go. It's kind of interesting because this plant is not one that I would have thought of for small spaces because the one in my garden is pretty big. But it's taken him a long time to get there. He's probably 8 or 10 years old, but he's about 8 feet high and 8 feet wide. So the idea is he's also slow growing. So you could put him in a container or just tuck him in a spot in your shade garden. And eventually he is going to fill in though. He's going to be pretty dense. Think about a really giant meatball. That would be what, or think about the giant peach in Fort Valley. Maybe not quite that big, but you're kind of getting the idea. It's the great thing about this cryptomeria, again, it'll take full sun, but it'll also be happy in shade, heavy shade, light shade, shade in general. I would tell you, I haven't had any insect or disease problems on any cryptomeria. Now, we were talking today, there's somebody that I was talking to who said that they killed every cryptomeria in their, oh, was it you? Yeah, so, anyway, but we've all had, we all have plants that don't particularly like our environment. You know, somebody just goes, no, I don't want to live here anymore, and they up and die, and that's the end of it. So we all have a little compost pile, and so, but this is a cool guy. Just know that he is going to get a little large. So when you get him, enjoy him while he's small. You know what? I told Jeannie, this is probably my favorite plant. I love this guy. He looks like if I had a little miniature railroad someplace, I'd want him in the landscape. I just think he would look so cool. Really slow growing, maybe a ½ inch a year.
Wow.
So really slow, very, very dark green, really bright lime green new growth, the little ½ inch that there is every year. And I've even gotten some teensy weensy cones on it that are almost the size of like a pinhead. So I've got mine in a container. It's been in the same container for, I don't know, 3 or 4 years. It looks the same today as it did when I planted it. I'm sure it's 3/4 of an inch bigger than it was when it went in there, but that's about it. But I love it. It's so irregular and fun. So that's a cool little plant. This is a plant that a lot of times you'll see in a container, in big containers like lining a driveway or lining a walk. There's a big church in Athens. I want to say it's on Broad Street. Giant Baptist church, and they've got a line of Italian cypress that runs from the front to the back of the property. They are enormous. I'm just going to tell you, they're enormous. But they are relatively slow growers, and they're particularly slow when they're in a container because they're confined. But this is a really tight plant. It's great for a vertical accent. It makes a great 4-season container because you can plant stuff around it, and the chances of whatever you're planting fighting with this for space is pretty slim. But they're a wonderful, wonderful vertical accent in the landscape. And it's got a slight bluish cast to it. And there actually is a golden cultivar that's out now. I've only had it for a year, so I don't know, long term how it'll do growth-wise. But this is just fun, and you can nestle 3 together in a small little part of your garden, and it's just a nice way to add a different shape more than anything. All right.
Barbie.
Yes.
Okay. The plant that you did just before this Italian cypress that you were doing.
Tansu, yes.
Oh, I thought you said it stayed really, really small.
Yeah, this little Tansu does. He stays little. When he gets up to 8 feet, that's going to take him like 10 years.
Oh, okay.
And actually, I'm going to tell you the truth. I don't think mine could get to, I think that would be physically impossible. And mine get fertilized. But it's, I mean, you can tell, look how little the growth is on it this year. It's just a little bitty. But you're right, I mean, it's, mine was, well, I got it from the same guy that donated this. I got mine from Garden Design. And it was probably this big. I swear it's not a lot bigger right now. So, but that's a good observation. Thanks for bringing it up. I think sometimes what you're going to find, what we've done is all this material we have pulled from websites, reliable websites. If it's a conifer, we've probably pulled it from the American Conifer Society. If it's a Jap maple, well, I'll tell you, you can look up the same Jap maple on 4 websites and get 4 different sizes that are all over the board. So the size information I've pulled from websites. What I'm telling you, my experience with it is what I've seen in the garden. So I guess I would go into it knowing that maybe it could get to 8 feet. I don't think I'll live long enough to see mine get to 8 feet. And I don't anticipate, you know, an end date anytime soon. So I'm kind of hoping there's some longevity there. Thank you for that question. Okay, here's the little, you know, I feel a little bit sad about this poor little longleaf pine. But normally, a little longleaf pine, and this guy is just starting to put on his new growth, so once he flushes out, he'll look a little different. You know, we all know longleaf pines get to be huge. But in a juvenile state, they're kind of that way for maybe, I would say, 2 to 4 years, where they'll stay, you know, they'll be this size. When he fluffs out, he's going to be this big. The next year he's going to be like this. And then he's going to get to be a little taller, but that whole trunk is going to be covered in these beautiful long needles. I was telling somebody earlier this morning, I love putting this in a really tall planter, and I let it go until it's about 3 feet tall. I pull it out of the clay pot that lives in the container. I give it to a friend who's got 40 acres. They plant it, and I go back and I get another little 1-gallon plant and I put it in there, because all year long I've got this beautiful, what I think of as kind of a waterfall looking plant. And it, at times when I've seen them start to grow up, they remind me of those cactus. Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's what they look like, but fuzzy. So anyway, whoever adopts this, be a little patient, give them a good home, and I think you'll just be tickled. You know, this season he'll get some, but next season he's going to be really cute. So, nice.
Obviously, it's a pretty long route.
It does, but you know what you're going to find is, and maybe that's the issue. Who was it that was telling me that they've never had success planting it someplace else? I was talking, was it you, David? Yeah, you've grown them, and then you've gone to move them, and they've never made it.
Well, they'd get up about 6 feet tall.
Well, that might be big.
And in a big pot.
Yeah.
Get up about 6 feet tall, and I would transplant it to the yard.
Yeah, someplace, yeah.
And it would put on a little bit of new growth, and then
just fizzle out.
Then I'd leave it alone and it'd die.
Yeah. Well, again, in a container, while it's juvenile, it's really nice. You know, I have this saying that no plant lives forever. So, you know, there's some of them that there is a defined lifetime. I've not ever planted it in my garden afterwards, because I have a place where I take it, and honestly, he's never said whether they've died, so I just have assumed that they lived, but maybe that's an issue. But as a container plant, it can add a lot of texture to your garden, so consider it that way. And then if you start out planting it in your garden, if you took this guy and just put it someplace in your garden, just know that eventually, you know, he's going to be a telephone pole. So you need to give him some space. I like him in containers, so let me just leave it at that. I bet this is probably one of the most well-known container plants. There's a lot of people that are familiar with arborvitaes, particularly green giant, you know, which is giant. Emerald green is slower growing. It'll still get to be a big plant, But you can keep this in a container 3 to 5 years, and if the container's big enough, it's not gonna outgrow it. For anybody that came to the stroll at my garden last year, I have 2 flanking the entrance into the garden. They're in probably, I would say, 24-inch containers diameter-wise, probably 30 or 32 inches tall. And my intent is to leave them in there for probably another 2 seasons. And then at some point in time, I'll pull them out of there and I'll go put them in the garden. But talk about, you know, he just takes care of himself. They look good, they don't have any pest or disease problems. Again, you can underplant it with other things in a container or out in your garden. It'll just be a nice, tight pyramid. But realize if you put them out in the garden long term, 25 feet. So, you know, give them space or have your chainsaw ready. Mr. Bowenlaw, look at this guy. He's another good little meatball. He's just, and you know, he's like a little kid with curly hair. You just want to, and he well behaves himself. This guy will also get some color on him in the wintertime. It almost gets to be kind of a mauve-y bronze color. And then as the temperature changes, as the soil temperature increases, it'll start coming back to its kind of I would say it's a bluish green. It definitely has some blue coloration to it. But this guy is not ever going to get too huge. A couple feet tall, 3 feet wide. You'll have a stray wild hair once in a while that you'll trim, but for the most part, you're just going to walk by and he's going to be like your dog, except you don't have to feed him or take him to the vet. So this is a good guy. This is another little fun one. Now, hard to imagine, but this guy actually one day is going to get to be about 4 feet tall, but you can see how congested and how dense the growth is on it. So it is a really dense plant. It's not going to be open like this. This is a great plant. You can see a little bit of the coloration. See how bright green the inside is. During the winter, this gets coppery and gold, and then again, it'll start to green up as the temperature changes. So that's what's going on with this guy right now. He's just coming out of his winter coloration, but I mean, it's soft. It's just soft as can be. So he's going to be cute. He's going to get to be, you know, 4 feet tall, a couple feet around, tight like this. He really needs full sun to be happy. And what you'll find across the board with conifers, they need really great drainage. So if you've got heavy clay soil, do either plant it high or amend the soil well, because wet feet is not something that they typically like. So, anybody have a cryptomeria? Do you have deer issues with them? Okay. So I think the cryptomerias would all be at least over the arborvitae. And I don't really know about the cypress, Faye. I would tell you that I don't ever remember them eating my cypress, but you know, that would have been the end of the food chain for them. There were too many other things that they really wanted. You know, the hostas and the hydrangeas and the roses and the lilies were kind of at the top of the food chain. So I don't think they ever really got that far into the smorgasbord. Yes?
You mentioned that if they were in pots, that they tend to be more slow growing.
Yes.
Can you trick them and partially bury the pot?
Oh, you mean to restrict how fast? Yeah, I guess you probably could. Yeah, I mean, there's no reason why you couldn't. Just that when you, at some point in time, that pot might crack or something, but even so, but you're right, it would definitely grow slower that way. So that, you know, the other way that you can kind of trick a plant, and since this is gardening with limitations, this breaks the rule about time limitations. But you could definitely root prune it as well. It's just, you know, when I put it in the ground, I want to go have a good life. I'm going to visit you every morning, and when I have my glass of wine in the evening, but beyond that, you are on your own. So, yes?
Barbara, do you think for these smaller containers that Flo would have the same thing in larger
Size?
Sizes.
Like, give me an example, Linda.
Well,
Like?
like that little guy.
Oh,
right
like
there.
this little guy?
And like that weeping Japanese.
Oh, yeah, I mean, I think in some cases, this came from Flo. I know I've also seen this at Piccadilly. So I would look, but you might be able to find this in a 3.
Yeah.
And I would guess, that for sure the Jap Maple, I would also think maybe in a 3 or even a 7.
Yeah.
So in fact, when I picked up her plants, she had some big Ryusins there.
Yeah.
I just can't remember if they were 7s or not, but I mean, they were.
Yeah, see, that's, okay. Thank you, that makes a difference.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, it does. I mean, I
I
like
might better
to,
wait.
I want to see it kind of get big, you know,
Yeah.
before I cycle out of that. Okay, shrubs, I'm gonna, here we go. Okay, so, azalea season. I was really surprised. We have 2 Hilda niblets, and it looks like poor Hilda got a little nipped. And if any of you are growing azaleas, you know that some of them did get nipped in that last little cold spell. But the reason that we like Hilda is look at the flowers. For the most part, you're not going to find any 2 flowers the same next door to each other. They're all really different. They're kind of a pearl pink or a blush pink, a little bit of coral or salmon, a little bit of regular pink. This particular variety stays really dense and compact and small. So if you've got a spot where you want some azaleas, but you don't want, you want big flowers but not big plant, this is just a really lovely cultivar. Yes?
Is it a repeater?
Not that I'm aware of, Ray. I don't think so. But just again, really nice. You can see, you know, 1 to 1.5 feet tall by, you know, 3 or 4 feet wide is lovely. I mean, it's almost like a ground cover azalea. Really, really nice. These were donated from Hickory Hill. I know it's a, I think it's a pretty popular variety. I know I've seen it places, but this is a good one. It just looks to me like we might be missing the bloom season this year because of that cold. It's such a cool plant. Okay. This is Cotoneaster, and it's really different from the standpoint. It's got eensy leaves on it. Look how tiny they are. And it tends to have this very sporadic branching, and as it gets a little bit bigger, it'll be very pendulous and very arching. So it's a really graceful plant. It'll bloom up and down the stems as those flowers are pollinated. You'll get little red berries all over the place. I don't know that I would say this is a great plant for in a container because it is kind of wild in how it grows. But in the garden, it's really nice, and you actually can, you know, walk by in the spring if it's got a branch coming up and you want it to go this way, cut it off and walk away, and the next time you look at it, it'll be very well behaved. So again, very few pests. I don't know of any pests on it. It blooms well. I love the red berries though on these leaves. You can see it's kind of silvery on the backside. Again, a really pretty dark green. So this is nice if you're trying to get some fruit in your garden, and I can't tell you whether the birds like it or not because I have too many cats to keep the birds away. So,
Barbie, would you say that's good for holding a slope?
yeah, I would because I've got it in an area, Linda, and I had not really paid attention to that, but I had a tree come down in the area where these are planted, and in order to get in and just clean up the branches, there were a lot of places where this actually had grown over, touched down, and had rooted. So, yeah, I would never call it invasive by any stretch of the imagination, but it just is, that tiny little foliage is, again, a really great texture change for you in your garden.
It doesn't have thorns, it's like a lot of the.
Yeah, this guy's little enough, we can pass him around, but he has to get returned to somebody who's going to win him. So don't anybody get real attached. Building a kaleidoscope. Is anybody growing this in their garden? This plant has been out for a few years. There's another variegated leaf out that's called Mardi Gras as well. But this will get, in full sun, this will be lime green, gold, dark green. It'll get some pink or peach in it. But you'll get a variety of colors on this foliage. You'll get a bunch of teeny white little flowers. This is also a really good mounding plant. Pretty well behaved. Every once in a while it'll send a branch straight up, cut it off, and you know it'll do its thing. But it will give you a really interesting color palette in one plant, which is really a nice aspect of it. Also, as the temperatures change in the fall and the days shorten, you'll get some color variation that way as well. You'll get a little bit more red or copper out of it instead of the peach and pink. It'll just darken up a little bit. Have you had good luck with this one? Okay. So this is, how are we doing time? Oh, we're kind of right on schedule. Okay, did anybody here buy a purple pixie loropetalum? Okay. Is there anybody here who liked purple pixie as a loropetalum?
How tall is it? Mine are 15 feet.
Yeah, well, and I mean, brittle.
As of this morning, it won't be 15.
Yeah. It's a, purple pixie was designed to be a really low loropetalum. It came out probably, I don't know, 6 or 7 years ago. It is a very brittle shrub, very brittle. And, you know, when you think about how robust loropetalums are in general, this one, it was like, it just sits there. I mean, you just want to kick it. Like, you know, it just sits there. Yeah, it breaks and you just want to pull it out and throw it away. So there is a new and improved low-growing loropetalum, and that would be, ta-da, Crimson Fire. This one has been trimmed. So this one has been sheared around this way, but this thing is going to take off that way. It's not going to get huge. You know, they're saying 3 feet wide. I'm going to tell you that it's wider than that. I think they're probably going to be closer to maybe 4 feet wide, but I think the height is pretty close. I've planted a fair number of these, and maybe 1 out of every 6, every once in a while, I'll get something that'll grow up, and then when it gets tall enough, though, then gravity grabs it and it falls over. Sometimes I let that happen and sometimes I cut it off. But I do think it's going to be very horizontal versus vertical. I think the horizontal growth on it is going to be much stronger than any vertical tendencies. And I will tell you, it is a much softer, more pliable plant than purple pixie has ever been. So, you know, purple pixie, rest in peace. So, anyway, I think this is going to be a really great plant in the garden going forward. So if you're looking for, you know, low burgundy, great flowers in the springtime right now, I think it would be a really good plant to add to your garden. Yeah.
Are you familiar with the white loropetalum,
Yes.
the Carolina Midnight?
Yeah.
I would recommend that if someone wants a low growing.
Yeah.
They'll only get up about 2 to 3 feet, and mine this spring have been beautiful. Solid
Gorgeous.
white.
They look like a water fountain almost.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I would recommend that.
I actually, you know, I love the purple foliage and I'm one to use it. I actually think a white loropetalum is stunning. I mean, it's just that foliage is almost a black green. And those pretty little white flowers on it, I think that's a gorgeous plant. That's a great comment. Thanks, Dave.
David, where did you find them?
Mine came from where?
McCorkle's has it.
McCorkle's. They came from McCorkle's.
What did you say, name of the website?
The name of it is Princess Midnight.
Carolina.
Carolina, yeah.
Carolina.
Okay, is soft caress mahonia. Now, this is not your mama's mahonia. For those of you that are familiar with the old-fashioned mahonia that can stick you and really, you know, you could do surgery with the leaves. This is not that. First of all, you can see here how fine the foliage is. And it's soft. It's soft. You know, it doesn't have any barbs on the end of it. It's a beautiful growth habit, pretty yellow flowers that will turn into fabulous blue berries. I will tell you that it is not, I had a lot of winter damage on mine. The plants are alive and well, and they're all resprouting and doing fine. But I had a lot of burnt foliage on it, particularly compared to a traditional or a species mahonia, which, you know, my guess is they can weather anything. But I don't know, anybody else growing soft caress, did you have winter damage, winter burn? Or did you lose them? Oh, wow. Lynn, did you lose?
They were first-year plants, so.
Okay, so yours came back, but you lost some foliage on it.
Yeah.
Okay.
But they were okay.
Also, I mean, on some of mine, because it completely, you know, lost all its foliage, I treated it like a Nandina. I, you know, whacked that thing back, and, you know, it's got new growth coming up and down the trunk, so I wouldn't be afraid to do that. Probably. Okay, of positive press, even today as people were walking by Pierre's. Ray, what did you say it was called? Andromeda?
In New Jersey,
Yeah. I mean, I remember I grew up in Michigan, and that's what Pierre's was called.
Brides use it a lot in the bouquets that breaks down.
There are some Pierres that get to be enormous. This, however, its claim to fame is it's a little teeny one. I mean, mountain snow, 3 to 4 feet high, 2 to 3 feet wide, fabulous evergreen foliage, tons of white flower panicles. You know, this is one of those plants, if you're looking to brighten up a shady spot, because it actually wants to be in the shade. So for those of you that have got woodland gardens, this would be a plant to consider, and when it blooms, it'll really brighten it up. It's a fabulous, fabulous plant. Also, what you'll see is this bronzy, it's going to get this bronzy red color to it. I think in the fall is actually when that happens. So, anyway, cool little plant. All right. For anybody who's ever been to my property, I have got a bajillion yuccas.
Did I go too fast?
No. Did I miss one?
Flirt.
Flirt. Let's talk about flirt.
Which we just found out yesterday.
Yeah, we just found flirt.
Nobody had it when we were.
Yeah, well, when we were trying to get it for this presentation, nobody had it, didn't know they could get it. It's at T-Bones. So if anybody gets excited about flirt, the cool thing about flirt, first of all, the size, you know, Nandinas, it's like Lord Peddlers. They, you know, can take over the world. This guy does stay small. Lynn, do you still have one?
No, I couldn't find them when I wanted them, and now I don't want them.
Oh, okay. All right. I knew that you were hunting for one for a long time.
Desperately.
Well, its claim to fame is that it stays small, but more importantly, besides that, is it's got the red coloration on it. Supposedly is 3 seasons out of 4. In the heat of the summer, it's going to green out, but it turns red for fall, through the winter, and into the spring. So you get something that stays small, has that lacy, feathery look to it, and has great color. So flirt is a really good one, and now we know, as of yesterday, available at T-Bones. There you go. It's not your mama's Nandina, that's for sure. Okay, so here's this is all I can show you. Okay, this is an entire branch off of this little ruscus. It is another one of those tiny little plants, like some of these little cryptomerias. I'm going to pass this around. This is spiky, however, but it's really dense green. It's a ruscus. It's evergreen, does great in the shade, has these red berries on it. I mean, giant berries for such a little bitty plant. But this is snipped off at the ground. This plant is probably 5 or 6 years old, so you know, that's it. But it's, yeah,
The birds eat the berries?
The birds eat the
That was the whole.
I don't know.
I don't, mine didn't over the winter, they
I
didn't
don't
eat them.
think
I
so.
think the foliage is so sticky, the birds.
Yeah, I mean, no, because the foliage is so, I mean, when you see it, I don't think anything can get, I think it would get picked. The place I would tell you to look for this, I know that you used to be able to get this until they closed, time after time carried this. I would check Piccadilly Farm. If anybody might grow it, it might be them. They've got kind of a neat assortment of unusual shade-loving plants. But this particular variety, one of the things that's nice about it is that it does stay little. It would be great in a year-round container tucked into a shade garden. It would be lovely.
Yes, Arby, Piccadilly did have a couple of ruscus the other day, but I don't remember if they had this variety.
Okay.
If it's not Elizabeth Lawrence, then go get it bigger.
Yeah, it
Because
might
the
be-
other ruts,
Right, the others
one
did
that got
good.
the big one.
Yeah.
Rick out in Lexington.
Oh, no, he
He's
might.
telling me he can get me anything I want.
Okay, well, it would be worth asking about if it's kind of interesting to you, because it is a very cool little plant. Again, that's one that if you had, you know, one of those miniature train tracks, you know, in a garden, it'd be a cool plant, you know. Okay, here's, I have got 1 million yuccas on my property, and for those of you that have known me for a long time, I spent half of my life cutting them off at the base and painting them with full-strength Roundup. And, you know, all it does is make the roots mad, and it sends it 4 little teeny ones instead. So it was a major ordeal for me to actually buy yucca. Yeah, there's just something wrong with the concept, but I gotta tell you, I love this plant. In the winter, this will be fabulous pinky red along the edges. And it'll be yellow, green, and deep pink. It's lovely, just absolutely lovely. It will spread from the standpoint that it will sucker off of it right up next to the plant, so you'll end up with a clump, but it's not going to send it out 4 feet. At least it hasn't done that in 4 years yet. But I have gotten a ton of babies because of that, so I've been able to increase using it. You know, it took me a while to like this shape, but now I do. You know, it's kind of like a black dragon. There was a long time where if it wasn't a perfect pyramid or something, I didn't get it. But I think this is a really lovely plant, and in your winter garden, nothing will brighten it up more than this. It's got to be in full sun, and it has to have great drainage. And this, once established, is truly drought tolerant, I can tell you that. So this is just a cool.
Does it get that big tall spike of flowers?
Yes, and it blooms at an early age, Ray. You know, most of mine, they've been in that bed zone maybe 4 years old maybe, and they bloomed the last 2 years. So I mean, it's quite spectacular when they're actually blooming, and with the great color of those fronds, it's really good. So anyway, I'm a big fan, even though I was late coming to the park. Now, technically, these aren't really grasses, but look-wise they kind of are. So the first one I want to talk about is actually a Carex, and it's called Sparkler. Anybody here growing that plant in their shade garden?
Bunches of them.
Yeah, I mean, you gotta love this plant. It's just, it kind of forms a clump. It's very grassy and soft, and it's this wonderful mound, and it looks like a grove of little variegated palm trees. That's exactly what it looks like. That's the best description you can imagine. Doesn't get very tall, gets a nice width to it, loves the shade. Very not fussy. early in the spring, you would cut the foliage back like you would any evergreen fern, like a holly fern or an autumn fern. You cut it off, let it re-sprout, and you'll get all clean foliage for the next year. So just a really, really wonderful plant. Do you guys that are growing it, any other comment about it? Have you had any problems with
No,
it?
it really brightens up my shade area, and it's, because it's like this yellow, and I've got probably 25 of them planted that line a walkway.
I'll get another one if mine doesn't come back.
And it's special, I bought them all from Special Ornamentals.
And the deer have never bothered it.
No.
So that's another thing, you know, if you can get something like that for a shade garden, that the deer don't bother, you know, a combination of that and hellebores and a few other things makes, you know, for a nice, interesting area. Okay, this blue fescue grass, don't you just, I mean, don't you love this? I mean, these are small from the standpoint that these are still young plants, but this plant at maturity is going to be maybe total, think about a basketball cut in half, you know, maybe 12 inches across, something like that. A beautiful, beautiful silver blue. I would tell you fall, winter, and spring. It's a fescue, you know, which doesn't really like heat. You know, that's why we don't have fescue lawns in the south. So in the summer, it's not going to be real happy, but as soon as the soil temperatures drop a little bit, cools down a little bit, this is stunning in your winter garden. Again, if you're looking for a way to get some blue, incredibly drought tolerant, once established, but I mean, I have it in a part of my garden that gets no water except what falls from the sky. And it gets little teeny plumes, you know, in the summer. And I probably started out with a dozen clumps, and there's probably 2 dozen now. So, I mean, I get little tufts here and there, but it's as cute as can be. I mean, that's fun. We have 4 of those. What's kind of interesting, let's go to the next one. Originally, probably 7 or 8 years ago, there were 2 varieties of these. There was Boulder Blue and there was Elijah Blue. One was a smidge bigger than the other. Now, you can't find Boulder Blue or Elijah Blue. All you find is blue fescue. I think there's been so much confusion in the trade, and maybe there really wasn't even a difference. But anyway, if you ever see Boulder Blue or Elijah Blue, you feel free to get it because it's going to be just like this. But a really great addition. Like any ornamental grass, it has to have great drainage or else you're going to, you know, rot the roots on. So be careful relative to that. Miscanthus little kitten, I'm just going to tell you, it is nowhere to be found. Miscanthus little kitten is a great grass because, honest to goodness, it is small. It's a small ornamental grass. You know, maybe 18 inches tall, with the flower plumes might be 2 feet. You know, it's a small little ornamental grass, which I thought would be so perfect for this presentation. You cannot put your hands on it anywhere.
So do they just sell out of it because our handout says it's a big...
Yeah, well, that was one of the things I was going to tell you, is AG's originally was going to have this for us because they had growers that grew it. I'm just going to tell you, there is not a grower in the southeast right now that has any, and I can tell you that 4,500 of them went to Reynolds Plantation about a month ago, and that took out the inventory. So yes, there will be someplace this summer, but right now you would be really hard pressed. We originally, then we thought T-Bones might have it. He doesn't have, I mean, he sold his stuff to Reynolds, so, you know.
It's about the hunt. It's about the hunt for the plant. So
you know, when you go, I want that plant.
if your billfold ought to have a piece of paper in it with the plants that you're always looking for. So if you stop somewhere and you see it, then you know what it is.
So anyway, little kitten is a great plant. Now I'm going to tell you, I've had people say, "Oh my goodness, that doesn't make it through the winter." Now we all know what this last winter was like. I have little kitten growing in, oh, you know, the silver stuff that water buckets and stuff are made of.
Galvanized.
Yeah. I've got it grown in some of those trash cans that I've drilled holes in. So metal exposed to the cold, everything else under the sun came through the winter just fine. So to me, that's a good thing. So anyway, if you have a spot in your garden where you're looking for some movement, one of the beauties of ornamental grass is that with the breeze catches the grass and you get that sense of movement. This is a nice small grass that will do that. So whether it's one clump or many, yes.
Does the breeze spread those seeds and they grow?
I have not had that be an issue. So I'll just tell you that mine have not self-seeded, and it could be that it's sterile. Keith, you know?
No, it's not sterile.
Does it self-seed?
It does self-seed, but I think it's really hard to do to establish themselves.
Yeah, that's probably right.
If you're mowing or you're doing any other type of cultivation, probably.
Yeah, or if you have mulch around it or something like that. A little like, muley grass will actually self-seed, but given the amount of seed that comes off of it and what you end up is actually new clumps is really slim. It's small.
It's a tiny seed.
Yeah. Okay, thank you, I appreciate that. Anyway, we think it could be off the list for a while. Who knows when it'll come back. Just know you heard about it here. All right, small trees. So for the most part, we have got we've got two to show you, but we've got several to talk about. The first one we're going to talk about is Cynthia's Crown Jewel. This was a recommendation from Dave Freed at Garden Design Nursery. This is a sweet little jet maple. This thing only grows about 2 feet tall and a little wider, so it's kind of mushroom shaped. I mean, it's a slow grower, and that's its growth tendency. As with most jet maples, they do need consistent water. They've got a lot of foliage, and so you just want to make sure that they don't dry out, because you'll see it in dried leaf tips almost immediately. Beautiful in the fall, just beautiful. They're relatively small leaves, and so because they're so small, when they turn color, they're like little beacons. So it's a really, really neat little tree. That's this. It's actually a dwarf version. How many people here have Sango Keiku? Have the normal coral bark jet maple? Okay. It gets to be pretty big. Okay, this is a smaller rendition. The 8 to 6 feet, again, I bet we could find 5 different size combinations on the internet. I don't know that I actually think that it will only top out at 8, but my guess is it's probably not far from there. Its claim to fame, besides staying smaller, is that also the trunk and the branches tend to hold that pink coloration better than Sango Keiku, which as it gets older, it ends up being really just more the top of the tree rather than the entire tree. But this is a beauty, and I will also tell you that besides this one, which some lucky person will get today, this is also available at Locklee's plant sale on Friday. So just to know. One is Kamagata, and I'll also tell you this is another Dave Freed recommendation from Garden Design, 20% off, availability list shows there. Kamagata is also, now you can see this is going to be 6 by 6. It's an upright. But what that means is it's width-wise, it's going to match it. It's pretty balanced in how it grows, so it's not going to be V-shaped. It's going to be as wide as it is tall. This has got great foliage. You can see that's a fall picture. It starts earlier with fall color than most jet maples, so you'll be able to enjoy the fall color a little bit longer. Full sun, again, be careful on moisture because it needs it. This one is also available at the Lockerly plant center. Third one we're going to talk about is Candy Kitchen, and I just added this one earlier this year. This is going to be a small tree. I mean, it's really only going to be, 4 or 6 feet high. if anybody has butterfly, you know how that's a really twiggy, very slow growing, tight tree. I think this is going to be a little bit like that, except that the spring foliage is cherry red. It's cherry, it's got some burgundy, it's got, I would almost say a little maroon maybe, but there's a great variation of red leaves, red coloration on those leaves. And it's also going to be a tight tree, so it'll be good in a container or in a small little area, but just very, very nice. All right, this is from Flo Chafin, and this little guy is, I mean, you need to plant them straight. So he needs a little bit of help, but you can tell this guy is not a weeper from the standpoint, you know, that there's some Japanese maples that grow out this way. This is actually considered pendulous. It'll grow as tall as you keep staking it, but the branches are going to grow down as it comes down. So it's going to be it's going to be as tall as where you stake it. And then it's going to be really narrow. When I originally was pulling the information on this, I found a website that said, I think it said like 15 to 20 feet tall and 5 to 6 feet wide. And so all of the information on Flo's plants and Dave's plants, we wanted them to sign off on. She goes, I don't know where you got it, but you know, change them. Because she said, I've never seen one that big. She said, I've never seen one even get to be 4 feet wide. They just tend to really hug the trunk as they weep. So this is going to be a very cool, unusual specimen tree. He just needs to be straightened out a little bit. And I know there are some people here that want to adopt him. Jeannie, you were the first one who told me that you're a mama that could love this plant.
So. Yeah, guys, we were talking about this because I've started collecting these on a small scale. But, you know, Japanese maples are not cheap trees. But one of the reasons why is when you get into this, and if you go and meet Dave and Flo, you'll really understand. That Felheim right there is probably, what, 5? It probably took him 5 years to get the tree to that selling point. So from a grower standpoint, there's a lot of investment and time. It's not like an annual where they just throw a bunch of fertilizer in it and right conditions and you can boom, double its size. It just doesn't happen like that. So from your standpoint of purchasing, if you want it to be this size, you can't, you know, don't buy a little 1 gallon plant and, you know, wait 7 or 8 years, save the bucks, and get one that's reasonably close to the size that you like to start it at, because they are really a lot of work to go in to produce this tree.
Well, I think the other thing is, in some cases, I mean, in a lot of cases, you get what you pay for. The beauty of some of these trees is in how they've been grafted and the care that's gone into the grafting process, and what part of the wood has actually been grafted on makes a difference as to how it grows. And so I'm not saying that you can't find a great blood good Japanese maple at Walmart, because you probably can, or Lowe's or Home Depot or anyplace else. But what I will tell you that if you start looking to actually add a specimen tree, it might be worth your investment to actually visit and buy from somebody that has grafted it and grown it, because they will be able to tell you about it much more. Well, there's nobody at Walmart that's going to be able to tell you about it, but there is somebody at both of those places that can. So if your gardening tendencies happen to go that direction, I would just tell you to educate yourself and learn a little bit about it so that you're not disappointed. What I'm going to talk about is a really unusual one. I added this one last year. I got it at the University of Tennessee plant sale, and it is narrow. I mean, it's tight as can be, and it is going to get to be 18 or 20 feet tall. I can't find anybody that ever thinks it'll be 5 feet wide. I mean, they think it's going to be 3 feet. They actually think it's going to look like a telephone pole that you pasted leaves on it, which, you know, I'll try anything once. So anyway, this is one for small spaces, tightness-wise, you need to have some height. You can't, you know, don't put it underneath an arbor someplace. But if you've got a little tight spot, you can put this in here, and its claim to fame, besides how it grows, is the fact that it is cherry red in the fall. You know, and I think that's one of the things about Japanese maples for the most part. They're known for how fabulous they are in the spring when the foliage first comes out, and then all the variations you can get in the colors in the fall when the foliage starts to turn. Cool. I probably, you know, I'm going to tell you, this was recommended by Flo. I never would have thought about this as a tree for small spaces because we all know that redbuds tend to be kind of large, arching, open trees. But, you know, in a relatively small garden space, I guess you could use this. Lynn, do you still have yours?
I do, but if it ever gets to 12 to 15 feet, it would be a miracle.
And Kathy, is yours alive?
Yeah.
Okay, good. All right.
It's you.
Okay. Yeah, you know, there is something going on your property. I'm not going to speculate what it is, but there is something in you.
But it holds its color. It holds its color most of the season.
I mean, and that's really one of the things about Hearts of Gold is even in shade, you'll have those bright yellow gold leaves. And in the summer, where you're trying to get some color in a shade garden, this is a way to get it up vertically rather than down at the ground with some yellow or white variegated plants. Celestials. This kind of goes to the same size as what we were just talking about with Hearts of Gold. It is not going to be small long term, but I think it's going to take most of my lifetime or longer to ever get close to those numbers. But you want to talk about pretty foliage. It tends to be a very open, layered dogwood growth-wise, and so you see those horizontal branches with this variegated leaves. When it blooms, it's really pretty, but to tell you the truth, I love it for the foliage the rest of the season because it does stay like that. Given a great drainage and consistent moisture, I've not had any tip burn or anything else on it, and I've not had a problem with powdery mildew or any fungus issues. So anyway, it's nice, and the leaves are beautiful in the fall, but you know, then again, most dogwoods are. And then finally, in the tree category, we're going to talk about this fig. Oh my goodness, we're right on schedule. But I have to go fast. Okay, dwarf fig, 6 feet high, you can reach the fruit. What a surprise. And supposedly will continue, fruit all season, which is what figs are known to do, but to find it in a dwarf variety, I have not grown this particular one, but I know Flo has grown several, and if she says it's going to do it, that's what it's going to do. So if you're looking for that, but not least, originally with woody ornamentals, we were looking for blue chip butterfly bush. It is a very dense, compact blooming machine, period. You don't have to deadhead it, it just keeps on keeping on, and because of how dense it is, the spent panicles kind of seem to disappear into the plant rather than being so visible the way they typically are. I mean, that's the reason most of us hate butterfly bushes. However, this is not available at T-Bones. It's not available anywhere best we can find it. That was one of those ones where they said, oh yeah, we'll donate that, and then spring came and they got the orders in, and you know, you just can't find it anywhere. It's kind of like a little kitten. If you ever see it, I would highly recommend it. It is a tough as nails plant, absolute tough as nails. So instead, T-Bones gave us these three. Okay, so there's one of each of these up here. The biggest one is peach cobbler. That picture isn't as great as it should be because it actually is more peach than pink in the actual coloration. It's going to, you know, this says 6 to 8 feet high. I think the tag might have said 4 to 6, but when I went to the actual website for the grower, it said 6 to 8, which to me means plan big. And supposedly this is fragrant as well. So, but I gotta tell you, I've never grown any of these 3, so we're kind of on our own. Tutti Frutti is the littlest one. I mean, he's supposed to stay really teensy-weensy, very dense, hot pink, like fuchsia pink flowers. And then finally, Lo and Behold Purple, well, the real name is Lo and Behold Purple Haze Summer Lilac. Some marketing whiz came up with that. But anyway, again, small, 2 to 3 feet high, 3 to 4 feet wide, condensed, little teeny purple flowers. So, they're here. That's it. Noon. I'm done.
All right, let's take 15 minutes. We're about to. Let's get ourselves back going. Alright, y'all, I did have a couple of other announcements I want to make real quick. I forgot this morning. But Flo at Specialty Ornamentals is having a Books in the Garden where the authors from several gardening books are going to be there. It is May the 3rd. She has these book signings and book garden related book things very frequently. So this is up here if you want to do a little catch about it. And during the break, I had, who gave me this? You want to speak to it real quick? Well, Cookie Mouth. Go ahead.
This garden is from the CSRA, which is Richmond County and Columbia County, that are having a plant sale and swap on the first weekend in May, and we invite you all to come and visit. We trade among ourselves, but we also have vendors that come and sell their products.
So there's flyer presentation up here. We'll link it up here. You can check it out. All right, guys, we're going to finish up in a little bit, but the second part of this presentation was to talk about different types of containers. Do want to share a little, of course I got it confirmed. If you want to buy, flower pots have gotten very expensive, ceramic, nice flower pots. However, the TJ Maxx's home goods in Athens has wonderful prices. If you want to get two that are right, don't bother to go. The odds of it are very slim. But if you want to get some really big pots, I mean, I bought some like this big around, this tall for $29, or it'd be about $100 other places. So just keep that in mind, it's a good spot. But one of the things that we want to talk about is how to save space by changing your landscape. Changing what you plant in if you don't have very much. This was actually made up in a nursery that we went to, Big Bloomers, where they're just planting in old cans with seedlings mounted on the wall. Virtually anything can be used and plant in. It is not uncommon anymore to see other items being used, especially gutter mounted, and we're going to talk in a few minutes about good vertical gardening, which has become a big hot thing. I think this is just absolutely awesome. It's nothing but timbers being built into a design, but look at all the different kinds of plants that are available in that space that probably only covers 10 feet out. So if you have small, you live in a condo or you live in a small type area, you have other alternatives available. Sometimes it becomes necessary for us to have different alternatives for other reasons. One of the things we're going to get to in a few minutes is talking about not only raised beds, which we do, but actually having containers that are raised because of your ability to not have to bend over as part of this. But there's always ways to work around some of these items. One of the first items that I've got here, I know that this is a version of the one that Jeannie does a lot of growing on. This is made by a company that makes a US-made box called GrowBox. There are another company called Earthbox, and it's a similar box. It is a self-contained growing machine, right? Basically what it amounts to. You grow almost all your vegetables in one of these boxes, is that correct? If this little box comes plastic, it comes with a trellis kit so that you can tie up your tomatoes. It comes with a fertilizer packet that basically when you get through, you lay this out. You put fresh soil in it every year if you so desire, which keeps down any kind of soil-borne fungus that may come into play that a lot of us have in a raised bed. You lay this out and punch holes in it and put your plants in it, and there's fertilizer impregnated into this fabric. I know Jeannie loves hers, but most of the people have them, just can chain them together on a deck and grow patio tomatoes, you'd be surprised you can grow 5 or 6 different things in one of these boxes.
And you know, I used to do the cover over it when I was growing tomatoes in it, but now that I'm just growing little vegetables, I don't even bother with that.
Well, and it's, you know, it's designed where it drains. It's got a special bottom to it, but yet it's designed also to be water conserving so that you don't have to necessarily water it every single day. So these are neat for people who do not have space for a regular garden and want to do it on a deck or a patio.
Or in order to hide your garden from the critters that want to eat it.
This is true. That makes you able to do it in other places. But this one is made by a company called GrowBox, and they've got them. No, I think they're all consistently the same size, but it's like the more of them you buy, the cheaper that they are. They show you in the photographs that if you do the way they say, you've got a water reservoir at the bottom and a place where you water it. It's like a lot of these containers that are now being what they call self-waterers, where they actually wick the water up through from the bottom of the container. You know, you just want to be sure that you do it to the level that they say, because you don't want the roots of the plant to sit in water all the time. To that is a little item that came from the same company that does the Radius Garden Tools, which I know that some of you have found in several places. They created a little vertical gardening kit that you can actually grow inside the house all year long. And it's a tiny little kit. They chain, these little pots, chain 6, 7, 8, as many as you want. They have the same little reservoirs in the bottom, so they're not going to make a mess in your house. You can grow pots of lettuce, you can grow herbs. That's what it's designed for, is to go grow. You hook them together and you can chain them all the way up and hang them from a curtain rod or whatever they make. But they say you can connect as many as 6 or 7 of them together, and they come in 3 different colors, so they can make a window in the kitchen. Cute, have all kinds of herbs available for you to grow all year long. It's called the Way to Grow Gardening Kit. What I like about it is you know, you're not going to make a mess in your house because it's got the little water reservoir.
How much sun would those need a day?
They're going to need, if you're going to grow it inside, 6 to 8 inside, so it needs to be in a window that gets good sun, or outside on a deck that gets good sun. Which is, I don't grow a lot of house plants. That's Ray's specialty, but that most don't have enough sun with a porch all the way around to grow good house plants. All right, guys, I want to introduce you to a little company called Natural Yards. Wayne and Christine Burns live in Oregon. They are started off Wayne built birdhouses, and they used to sell their birdhouses to the little local nurseries and things like that. Well, he came in one day with the idea to build a raised bed, and he showed her. And she was like, you know, this is cool, we're going to start selling these. And they started selling them on eBay. That was their first thing. It's her husband, her son, and his wife. And now they have about 8 other employees because it really jumped out whenever they started selling online. What I think is neat about this, they sent us this planter, a standing height planter, These are made out of a kiln-dried plain cedar that has been treated with a glass base sealant on it. They will give you a 15-year warranty on this planter. And now it's going to age out gray if you don't, stain it with something. It's going to be like any other cedar. But I kind of priced these out, buying the cedar and building it, and I don't think you could do it much cheaper than the price. They send you the kit. I put this together in about 20 minutes. It's pre-drilled. They send you the bit, they send you the screws, they send you the dowels, they send you everything. What's neat about it that you can't really see unless you get up inside, that if you didn't get the standing planter, and we'll see some other pictures of the other ones, if you got just a raised bed, there are no screws in it. Now, one of the biggest things I have about my raised beds is I first start off, trying to put a bracket on there, or trying to put screws in the end of the wood, and they pull out. He dovetails the ends of the boards, screws a hole in them, and you have a stainless steel rod that goes all the way through. So you can take that thing apart and move it anytime you want to another location. But in order to have legs on it, it's got to have some additional screws put into it. It's got drainage in the bottom. It's enough that you can just fill it, put it where you want it first, and then fill it with soil. You got to get here yesterday. Their sealant that they use is certified organic. For those of you who want to know that they are certified through, what is that? ORM. Yeah. Okay. That it is. So if you prefer to use a wood like that, cedars are very rot-resistant wood anyway, but she said with this additional sealant on it, they will replace any problem you have with it after 15 years. A little facey there because they are giving us a discount. They will build them to any specification that you want. What's really cool about this is they say that if you were wheelchair bound, they recommend the octagon shaped, not one with a square corner, because it makes it easier to go around. But you can have these built with the trellises in any type of shape you want. They've got some standard patterns, but she said if you need something unstandard, they'll do it for you. That's what's nice about having some of these little places. They ship them to you in a box, and most of the reviews on the website said it takes longer to take the stuff out of the box than it does to put it together. And that was about what I seen. Everything was numbered, lettered, or whatever. It didn't take hardly any time to put it together. I want you to look at it when you go to it, because they are selling birdhouses again too. You did start back selling birdhouses. But the configurations that you can put these planters in are simply amazing. If you just had a porch or a concrete deck around the outside of it, I mean, you can have them and have them hooked together in a complete U shape where you've got working space all the way around. They also have the attached back trellises that you saw in some of them that you can grow vines up. You can grow anything you want to in them. I like the idea of the raised beds, but for those who cannot even, make it difficult to get down here, bringing that up to a standing height planter is an awesome thing. This one, somebody was telling me, for the most part, I'm trying to remember, this one runs like $225. With free, I think it's at $225, it's free shipping. And I priced out these cedar boards, and you're going to have a hard time building it for that price, and then you have to build it. So these family-owned company, there's a lot of these that build a lot of cedar stuff out in Oregon, because there's a lot of that wood available for them out there. But they are really nice guys, and I was pleased that they were willing to ship us this big item to have in our presentation. Okay, now what's really new to me whenever we started doing this, they show all these pictures on TV of all these plants stuck on a wall and these little things, and I always try to wonder how in the world they can water these things and whatever. The Root Pouch Company, there's many of these that are jumped up. Their claim is they are trying to replace a plastic pot. And they are working quickly toward convincing the growers that this is an alternative to using a plastic pot. The way their products are designed is they're color coded. These are made out of recycled plastic bottles.
Wow.
However, there is some natural fiber in some of them. And we'll give an example. The little black ones, they have the natural fibers built into them. They degrade, so if they get thrown into the landfill, they're going to rot, or you can put them in your compost bin. These will last you about 18 to 24 months. What I like about these, for my standpoint, is we buy these little 4-inch plants. A lot of times some of us will pot them up because we don't have time to plant them right now. We're going to give them a little bit more growth time. You can pot them up in one of these things. When you're through with it, you can fold it back up like this, and you don't end up with this massive amount of 1-gallon plastic pots sitting all around your house. These come in a multitude of sizes, though, all the way up to 20 gallons. And what they're trying to do is to move the wholesale market into using these instead of. All right, and then they can place it in a plastic pot while they're growing it out. But when they ship it on out to you, that it would come in these biodegradable pots. They're getting close. I think, you know, I had this discussion with Barbie, and it's like, you know, the growers that already have a huge stock of plastic pots, then they may not want to necessarily invest in them. But the price of these, I want to say they're like 12 cents a piece or something like that. They're cheap from the standpoint if you're looking for them. Now, let me show you, and I seem to be rambling, but there's different products available to it. This just came out about 2 months ago. The University of Colorado did a study on the use of these compared to the use of a plastic pot for a grower and a wholesale grower. And what they found was there was much better root production out of one of these than there was in a plastic pot. They allow the soil to stay cooler. They allow air exchange through them where a plastic pot does not. And because of the type of material, it almost has like, you know, a lot of people say planting in a clay pot will kind of prune the roots as the roots go around, that a plastic pot does not do. So this was really their first, the industry's first educational-based study that showed that the pot was actually a better growing item than a plastic pot. They come in one that lasts even longer, so you put these with handles, and then you got your ability to move your trees. These will last you about 3 to 4 years, 5 years. So if you want to grow vegetables, grow tomatoes outside, and you're used to growing them in a 5-gallon bucket or whatever, the thing is you can grow them in one of these, and when you get through with them, you can wash them. They're washable. Fold them up and put them back up until next season. The brown ones, which are called their boxers. My mom wanted to make a pocketbook out of one of these. I had a hard time keeping it. They do not degrade. And they come in bigger sizes. This is just, you know, there's a whole variety of sizes. A.M. Leonard, that's still giving us our discount, is our point of purchase for these. And they have every size you can possibly think of. The brown ones are just only have the plastic in them. And it is plastic, not with the stuff that you don't, it's not. They're only made from food-grade plastic, so there will not be any issue with your plants. So the amount of time that they take to degrade is directly related to the color of the fabric. I'll put those two back in there. These little items here are what they call their saddle bags. So if you have a deck at the house and you want to have deck rails, then you can plant directly into these pouches onto the side. They do a lot out in, and I haven't really looked out here, but in California, in a lot of places, the sides of hotels are planting entire walls. That's what they're planting them in, is in these wall hanging. They call that a herb pouch. But you get a series of these and put them across the wall, plant in them, and you basically have a living wall. So you don't have to have any space at the ground. If you want to, you can plant on the side of your house. You know, the concept is growing rapidly. Really really growing rapidly in the commercial portion of the industry. I could have shown you a little video, but didn't want to show those today, where some of the growers are having more success with their plants, doing better living in this, once they get over the conversion and get away from the plastic pots. Because we all know that no matter what, the plastic pots are here to stay, and we try to recycle them. And to be honest with you, somebody who grows, you know, like Roger, he ain't got time to fool with recycling pots. He needs a lot of pots available at a lot of quickly, and that's the way it is with most growers. Yes, ma'am.
What about water? Does water come through it, or does it sit in it?
No, water comes through them. Water comes through them. So, you know, are they going to dry out a little bit faster than plastic pot? My guess would be probably so. Probably a little bit faster. But the air circulation around the pot is supposed to make it a more healthy plant. We've got 2 of the saddlebags. They said these they actually call the vertical living wall pouch. They've got pictures on theirs. Well, I have. Stand over here. Where they planted entire walls with the hanging pouches in a lot of hotels and a lot of places like that, because you know they're going to change out these annuals. This is not something that you want to plant something in that you're going to leave there for a long time. This is color, this is quick, and this is designed to be, you know, where you want to use it right away. See the little saddlebags glued over the deck rails? I like those. I have a lot of times had problems with my flower boxes. You got to put them on something. The wind blows them off, so you won't necessarily have trouble with those. But they are a big supplier and vendor to a lot of commercial type things, because they can move this in and out seasonally. And the same thing with you. But just think about from the standpoint of space. If you do a lot of potting at home, you do a lot of rooting of things at home, the ability to fold that pot up and put it in a cardboard box when you're done with it, rather than finding a place to stack 50 pots, is a real advantage. And for those who like, you know, we all want to do some environmentally friendly things, that's a good resource for recycling of plastic bottles. Okay, how many of you really like these? This is a really nasty picture, I know, but it's fine. These cocoa planters, cocoa liner planters with the wire baskets, you know, aren't they really cute? Aren't they really a pain in the butt? Because I've tried to put landscape fabric in it to help it hold moisture. I can't water the thing every day. And then what happens is it comes out the end of the sides of the metal pot. Well, I want to introduce you to a company called Planters Unlimited, which I found in a real weird way a couple of years ago. This company, they are associated with Hooks and Lasts. Some of y'all may have ordered stuff from Hooks and Lasts before, which is like residential type gardening materials. But Planters Unlimited, the company itself, is the ones that build these huge planters you see at the malls. The hanging baskets downtown in Eatonton or in any town on the sides. They come from a company such as this with these huge planters. Well, how do they keep those planters down there looking so pretty so long? Well, here was part of the secret. Now, Teresa, you've got one of these too, don't you? This fiberglass liner fits inside the cocoa thing, okay? The cocoa liner. I only have the fiberglass liner right now, but it's not obviously in the one that I showed you. But this fits inside of that, keeps that cocoa liner looking just to look good, and to keep the soil from pushing it out the cracks in the sides of the thing. Add to it their addition of their water reservoir. This is the reason the people downtown and in these towns can keep these things looking so good. This becomes your watering tube. I'm not going to get a stick down here right now. So when you water, all they've got to do is fill the tube up. It fills the reservoir up. Your annuals are planted in here, and this will hold enough water for several days worth of water. And Tracy, you've got a fern in yours, don't you?
Yeah. What I liked about it was I didn't like it dripping down onto my wooden porch deck, causing the wood to rot. And so this way I could water my plants and still keep my porch dry. And it works great.
Yeah, I think she even tried to build
I tried
one.
to make one my own, but I wasn't successful.
And they have these, yes ma'am.
Is it fixed to where it's sealed enough to where the mosquitoes will not get down into the water and then you have bugs and mosquitoes all over the
I don't
house?
know. You know, I would think that it would be very hard once it was planted, because you got soil, you're gonna have soil all the way up to the top.
I haven't had any problems with mosquitoes at all.
They would have to go down in this tube and then do their thing and
You
come
don't
back
have
out.
that problem with the grow boxes,
That's true.
and this is just a hanging grow.
It absolutely.
I painted that PVC pipe black because I thought
Yeah.
that thing was ugly.
Yeah, yeah, right.
You can probably swap it out for.
But these things come in different sizes. You'll know in your packet where to look for them because they're ordered through Hooks and Lattice or through Planters on them. But they come in different sizes depending it, but they have made all the difference in the world for the one that I have out by the pool that I forget to water about half the time. See, they got them, and I mean, this is truly what the big cities use. And when they come by and you see them with that watering truck, they're just filling up these little tubes. Company that we talked about in part 2 of our presentation, which was ARS, our Japanese manufactured tool company. We saved little gift baskets from them till the last part. For those that y'all remember, they like for their tools to be sharp, no matter what it is. They have a Master Gardener selection of container gardening tools, and they're sharp. They provided us with 4 tools in each basket, from little bitty, they have some weird names on them, and they're still sharp. But for weeding in containers or weeding into little raised beds, the little sickle, which will get you, it is really sharp. They make some great tools, and I think Lynn has ordered several things from the last presentation, from part 2. The pruners and the overhead saws and stuff from them. They just really do make a great product. The Japanese people have long since been container gardening, since years and years of doing bonsai work, and that's why their claim is that the tool ain't sharp, it's not worth using. So we've got 2 baskets from them that each one have a selection of 4 of their tools. Now, and there is a point of sale for this that Lynn forgot. There's a discount in there for 10% off with your order. So be sure that you look at that if there's something that you see that you would like to have. They've got 2 diamond shovels. Well, there's 5. Okay. The long handle, the sickle wigger, and the triangle hoe. Planting or a whatever presentation of gardening would not be complete if we did not talk a little bit about soil. I can pass it around because those of us that are love to smell. And what do we know? And this may be on the test. What's the difference between soil and dirt? I picked on you last time. Dirt's what you get under your fingernails. But I'm bad about using that thing. But for many years, Sungrow, which is the owner of Fafford Soils, has been building specialty blends of professional line growing products for growers, primarily for years. Their mixes may be specific to what a grower is trying to get. But one of the things that we have not been able to get around here is what we would call a professional grade of potting soil. If you think you're buying it, you know, I bought, I'm big on anybody, but I bought a lot because of my greenhouse. But a lot of the stuff you buy ends up having big hunks of stuff in it, big pieces of bark in it. I was before buying Jungle Growth, which is, you know, I thought was pretty good. It still has hunks of stuff this big. Well, if you're potting a 4-inch pot, and you put in something this big, what does it do? It creates a void area in that soil to where that air pocket does not water properly, doesn't absorb moisture properly, therefore your roots that happen to go into that void area don't get the sufficient moisture that they need. What we did was we picked a potting mix that those of us who have been working at Lockerly for a while know that they've been using the Fafford 3B soil mix forever to do their plant propagations. It is out of all the different formulations that they make, 3B is really the most general, good for everything. You know, when you pot and you grow in a container, you've got to be able to let that soil breathe a little bit, and you don't want it to get so compacted it's hard as a brick, because there's no oxygen that can go through that area and help with the plants. Unlike the ground, which is going to get a certain amount of natural movement, a container can't do that. So you need to use a good quality soil mix for that. It is not, I think there may have been some little bitty bags available over time in a couple of places, but as a general rule, there has not been a constant source of this quality of hot mix in this area that I found. And I've checked almost everywhere. Some of the places will sell a product but I've never seen one that is this thoroughly sifted, this thoroughly mixed, and provides you such a good growing medium. So what we did was we worked out an opportunity for us to purchase this through Lockerly. They're going to start at the plant sale this weekend. Actually, some of us have already bought some bags, but it's going to become a permanent item available for purchase. You know, you're going to get, it's a really huge bag. Is it really cheap? No, it's not cheap. But it's just like any other thing that we've talked about in this. The quality of your plants and how well your plants do depends upon the quality of the soil that you put them in. Now, I'm not talking about incorporating this into your soil in the ground. I'm not talking about that. This is strictly to be used in a container type gardening situation where you can control the soil quality. I would highly recommend that you look into using this. It's just, like I said, it's just like anything else. If you put crappy soil in your pot to start with, you're going to end up with a crappy plant, because the plant's going to be struggling all the time to have a good blend and a good mixture of peat and those are that. Did you know that the rate of peat moss grows faster than it's collected? That was something that I thought was kind of weird, cool. The Canadian peat grows faster than, produces peat faster than it's harvested. So it's a very good renewable source. The bark that's ground in this, I mean, you can't look at it and tell. When you pour any of them out, the bags out, that's what they look like. They don't have big hunks of stuff in them. So if you are interested in using the absolute best quality soil product we're going to find around here, this weekend you can come get the bags, but even after that they're going to be available. They're going to be a little bit less expensive this weekend than they may be after that. But I would encourage you to look at that from what you are currently using in your garden.
Question?
Yes?
This is a soilless mix?
Well,
there's actually no, excuse me, Keith, dirt in it. Is there?
No.
This is soilless, right?
But you know, to be honest with you, I don't know that there's any dirt in any bag
No silica in it.
product that you buy.
You know what the weighing is?
Some of that cheaper stuff is blended with sand. But that 3B blend does not have sand in it.
What's the wetting age of the,
I don't know. It may
is
be
that those things that swell up?
No, I don't know, Ray. It may be in this little book.
Okay, I'll check.
It's a surfactant of some
I put it in
kind.
Amber.
So well.
If those things that swell really well.
I don't know. No, he said that they don't.
Mulch.
I'm going to think that, you know, the reason they put a wetting agent in a lot of these soils is because because peat moss is very hard to get wet.
Yes.
Once you get it wet, it's good at retaining moisture, but it's really hard to get it wet to start with.
Yeah, I agree.
All right, guys, I'm not gonna do a lot of reviewing, but let's just look at what we did, buy you a good quality plant. For those of you that like to rescue plants, I love you, but I'm past that stage. I've actually learned to throw things away and to give them an early death if they don't look good in my garden. I don't have time for it anymore. Containers, I got this from her simply because they add so much color and beauty to your garden. However, I couldn't keep carrying water. Now that I've learned to pipe irrigation to these containers, looking out in the shade garden to have a nice dark blue or green pot or yellow pot just adds a lot of color to it. So that's what we wanted to do, was to bring to you that you can use a container for a lot longer than it may seem like with some of these and not be changing things out all the time. I've had a ball these last 4 months.
Before you run out, if you put these black pots on the ground, it looks like you're having a perennial plant sale. These black pots, they look like Lockerbie Friday. 5,000 pots, folks. So before you rush out and buy a ceramic container or whatever, I've got a sign-up thing here, and I can send you some tips and warnings. You can plant things in shoes. I planted them in roller rink skates, but there are some warnings that you need to know before you rush out to Maranatha and buy up all kinds of junk shoes. They are cute as could be. But I have this sign-up. If you want me to send you some warnings about decorative pots, you don't want 20 of these black things sitting on top of your garden. You need decorative things. And
yep. Oh yeah, almost all of these plants are really ready for a new home. They've been rooted out fast to get ready for spring, and they need a new home. And what was it? One of the little ladies from Georgia College told me one thing: tiny plant, tiny pot. So be sure you don't put it in a pot that's too big for it and drown it to death.
Hey, thanks to our video.
Yes, we have. I did introduce Taylor, but he's been with us. Part 2 is on YouTube. If you haven't had a chance, all you got to do is go to YouTube, search Gardening with Limitations, Putnam County, and you'll see it'll come up. It's broken down by vendor and a single thing. Part 3 is getting almost ready to go up, so
Part 1 on YouTube.
It is.
All right, so how come you don't have a number in
here? Yeah. I just don't.
Why?
I just don't pull a
She's
ticket.
already got what you want.
I've never pulled a ticket.
Why, no, but we think you should.
Well, I know, but I did get a few things through this thing. Several people will say, well, don't you want something for you? I'm like, sure. So let's pull some tickets. I hope you've been thinking about what you wanted, so we make this go kind of quickly. Remember, please, if you aren't a plant person, please don't show plants for me, okay? Because I want them to be taken care of and have a good home. And if you get the planter and you live around here and you don't have a way to get it home, I'll help you get it there. All right, 383.
I'm going to take the planter.
Good deal. I'm glad to get it out of my basement. 399.
Which one are you getting, John? The big planter?
Our visitor from, I got it, that's it. You know, I just, yeah, we fun. Yeah, whatever. And you have to keep your picture made with and for the vendors. The vendors. All right. 380. Oh, Wanda, you finally won something, darling. That's so wonderful.
Get something good, Wanda. Oh, good.
395. Oh, one of the twins. One of the twins.
Yes, we're
All right, 398. $411. 411. Last call on 411. I'm filling those in. 376. Okay. I think 411. 360. Oh, Jeannie, I'm sorry.
We're making a
360. We're David. You got one.
road trip.
I'm gonna try this right here.
You are, okay. Cool. Now these, we'll do the saddlebags together, the wall hangers together, and then there's 3 of these little bags that all have little assortment of these things in them, okay? Since I kind of pulled back. All right. 419. $421. 421. Last call on 421. 401. Is this a drawing? There's 2 of those that got, not the under thing, but there's 2 of these. Yeah. Yeah, there's 2 of these that go together. Oh, super. You want those? Yeah. All right. We can chuck that down in there or whatever. Dave, make your picture. Yeah, that's Mom's sawhorses. I got it.
So one of these?
Yeah, they got like 8 or 10 different things. Okay. 423. 423. The saddlebags just went. The wall hangers are still there in the individual pockets.
Put them up on nails.
Yep.
What about that?
That's David's. He started that.
I'll trade with you.
And the big thing. That's going to now. That's still there.
Is this okay then?
396.
Wait a minute.
390. Miss Jam.
I know what she's going to do. I can see it on her face.
Look at the smile on her face. She's a happy camper. You did good. I know.
382. Great. You want something? 366. So close. 400. 386. 386. $375. Oh my God!
Yay!
Look at little Michael,
Oh, you're gonna love him. He's so cute. You have to name him, Jamie. What? You have to name him.
$394. $394. Oh my. They gonna have a house full of stuff.
Yes, we are, yes, we are. Let me see. Is that's gone?
Yep.
That's gone. Jam, Reese?
No, you're the one.
Sure.
418. $362. Oh yeah! Why have you not got one?
I'm so excited.
Have you got one of everything on the board?
No.
What don't you have?
No, I have too many yuccas. Oh, I don't know. I know, but I have way
$379.
Ta-da! Ta-da!
I thought you could get those with fruit, but just went.
I can't.
377. 377. All right. $381. $405. We don't have it. We couldn't find him anyhow.
I'm gonna grab this one.
I've got to go get one of those.
I'm not supposed to lift this.
Oh, that's right. Oh, 368. $372. Oh my God. Yeah. She won something last time. She won something last time. Whatever she planned, I got a plan next That's a bit, but dig a big damn hole. Yeah. That's it. 391.
Yes, that's still available.
Yep. And that's gonna get a little chubby fella. May have to kind of, yeah, because he's got.
You might have to just drag him.
363.
I have no idea. Oh my goodness, that's what you wanted. All right, that's what you wanted. That's what you wanted. Good for you, girl.
392.
Nobody else has seen it.
Yeah, it's gorgeous.
We've got one of those left and one that's long.
One of these. You just,
Yeah, yours.
Okay.
422. Husband and wife, both women.
They can take you up.
Yep.
You want the wall hangings? All right, we'll get them down.
How many of them do you get? I guess all four?
Yeah, all four of those go together.
You can just leave them hanging there.
Yeah, we'll get them down there. 417.
I'll just leave them there.
Big one, and 3 babies over here. 371. There and 3 over here. I know, but it's one of the few beautiful ones out there. I was surprised Mom didn't take it. 378. We got 3 over here and 1 of the baby over here. Let's put the little baby over here. 4 plants left.
How big is that back one?
This one all right, 403, down to the end, 403. We got 3 good plants left, so.
Well, there's still bags. There's a bunch of bad stuff on the wall. Even the stuff on the no, not the stuff.
Yeah, it's pretty much.
So all that stuff, all, even the stuff, the bag. Yeah. Okay, so.
374. 374. So you got the little pine or the little grass. This is hard. He's going to be the
I know, what a surprise.
416.
You just leave it sitting there.
Little pine goes home. Now when you leave today, be sure you get your packet because it's got your discount coupons in it for the nurseries.